Businessman Jose Uribe took the stand and said he paid bribes to Senator Robert Menendez, and he identified the senator sitting at the defense table. Uribe said he paid the bribe, a new Mercedes, through the senator's wife, Nadine Menendez. Uribe said he pleaded guilty because he is guilty of making payoffs and that he has a formal cooperation agreement with federal prosecutors.
Democratic Senator Bob Menendez had a no good, very bad day because things just keep getting worse and worse. He's on trial for allegedly taking part in a bribery scheme in which he and his wife got a car, gold bars, and cash in exchange for exerting political influence. Now, the prosecutor's star witness, a businessman by the name of Jose Uribe, has been testifying for multiple days now. And what he has to say about Menendez and his wife is pretty damning. So just to give you some background info on Uribe, in case you haven't been following this story, he described a series of meetings with Bob Menendez and his wife Nadine as he sought the senator's help in quashing the prosecution of an associate who was being charged with insurance fraud. So he's got a buddy, his body's being charged with insurance fraud, and he's like, how can I get a United States senator to help my buddy out? And so a related state investigation was also something he wanted Bob Menendez to basically help him out with. And he feared that it would lead back to his businesses. And so Uribe testified that he was close friends with Wael Hanna, who is also on trial with Menendez, when Hanna told him in early 2018 that New Jersey state criminal investigation swirling around the trucking business of a friend of his and his own insurance business could be largely put to rest if he was willing to spend $200,000 to $250,000. Nice chunk of change in return for quashing a prosecution. In other words, he had to be willing to bribe the senator. And so in his testimony, Uribe, who pleaded guilty before the trial began and is cooperating with prosecutors, described Menendez as a Godfather-like character, which is funny because he just doesn't look like a Godfather-like character, but nonetheless, who lorded his power over others and by his deeds and demeanor appeared to many as an all-powerful figure with vast influence in all walks of life. Remember, we're talking about a United States senator who was charged in a separate corruption scandal, but was unfortunately acquitted in that case. I think he was guilty in that case, my personal opinion, but he ended up getting acquitted. Now he's dealing with another prosecution, separate prosecution for another bribery scandal, and that's what we're talking about today. So the senator and his wife met Uribe during a dinner in 2019, where Menendez indicated he would look into the possible investigations targeting him, the businessman, and his allies. Uribe had purchased a car for Nadine and gave more detail about that in his testimony as well, saying, if your problem is a car, my problem is saving my family. Uribe said he told Nadine in March of 2019, in the days before he said he handed her $15,000 in cash to make the down payment on a new Mercedes Benz. So she's actually Armenian. She took his last name. And look, to my fellow Armenians, just let the Mercedes Benz go. It's okay. I've got a Civic. I like the Civic. It's totally fine. Go ahead, Was.
Just the penny ante nature of this just never ceases to amaze. Just like this C-class Benz, like here's 15 G's to get a C-class, and you're the wife of a United States senator. Like, just so people know, like the US Senate is about as bro-y, as chummy a club as there comes. These people really consider themselves to be in a fraternity / sorority or whatever of dignified and highly like respectable people. It's why like, during the Bernie campaign, he refused to go out and just kill Joe Biden because that's his guy. from the Senate, like they're in this club together. The fact that Bob Menendez was using that perch to get, low-level Benzes for his new wife is it's just insane. And another thing that people need to understand is that this guy, of course, TYT viewers understand this, but Bob Menendez works in the federal government. Like the fact that he's muddying himself up in lowly, local, yokel, New Jersey state stuff is just, it's incredible, honestly, that he was actually like doing this kind of low level corruption. It's mind blowing, honestly.
Well, look, to be fair, yes, his wife Nadine was allegedly handed $15,000 for that Mercedes down payment, but he eventually also arranged dozens of monthly car payments for her. So, they're not that cheap to buy off. Okay, so lawyers for Bob Menendez are sticking with their game plan of basically pinning all of this on his wife Nadine, real classy guy, who's currently undergoing cancer treatment, by the way. So in their opening arguments, they urged the jury to consider the question, where's Bob? Asserting that he was either unaware or not involved in the machinations. No one knows who Nadine is. Nadine has no political influence at all. Her husband's the one with the political influence, you idiots. Like, what kind of defense is this? This is ridiculous. Okay, let me continue though. So asserting that he was either unaware or not involved in the machinations alleged by prosecutors. It was his then girlfriend Nadine driving the bus, they said, with the senator evincing only a partial passive awareness of her actions, right? But that's not what Uribe said during his testimony. In one meeting on the patio in Nadine's backyard in September of 2019, the night before Menendez met with New Jersey Attorney General, Uribe said that the senator asked him to write down the names of the people and businesses at the heart of Uribe's worries. Sounds like he was pretty involved. And in Uribe's telling, after a brief chat, Menendez called out mon amour to Nadine, who was inside the home while ringing a little bell set up on their backyard table. Nadine emerged with paper and disappeared back inside before Uribe began to write. What are you doing, girl? What are you doing?
Wait, so Christian, when he wants your attention, doesn't just ring a bell and you come prancing out?
No, that doesn't happen in this household. Okay. Take that bell and shove it up his ass.
Is insane, dude. Like, and he's obviously an older gentleman. She's a decent amount of years younger than him, and like it's obvious that like his power and influence has something to do with what attracted her to the guy. But man, answering to a bell is nuts.
I mean, I thought it was his charm, his strikingly good looks,
Oh
my God.
Honey, I'd like a sandwich now.
So look, if it wasn't already douchey enough to summon your wife with a bell, the men were also discussing their corrupt scheme over brandy and cigars. Like this sounds like it's a cartoon.
Cliche.
Yeah, it's amazing. Soon after meeting with the AG, Menendez told Uribe that he didn't have to be concerned about the investigations. And according to Uribe, months after allegedly delivering on the key pieces of the bribery scheme, Menendez, during a 2020 dinner with him, sat back, his hands crossed over his stomach, and reminded the businessman of all he'd done. Quote, "I saved your ass twice. Not once, but twice," Menendez told him in Spanish, Uribe testified. By the way, Menendez has an interesting family history. Big supporters of the Batista regime, if I remember correctly.
Shocking.
Yeah, in Cuba.
Shocking. I'm sure they were very well positioned during that guy's reign, so they loved what he was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, once a
Not
dirty
surprised
scammer,
at
always a dirty
all.
scammer, apparently.
Yep.
So here we are. So we'll see how this case continues to play out. But man, I mean, I already was not a fan of Menendez. As more details come out during this trial, I hate him more and more. Just awful person.